US, it did not take long for my email and my phone to start blowing up. And initially, when that happened, it was questions like, Anita, what am I going to do if things start closing down? How am I going to keep my doors open? What am I going to do with my people? How am I going to pay my people? And so literally some days I was on Zoom calls or phone calls from 7 a.m. in the morning till after 9 p.m. at night. It was insane. Then things shifted to where the focal topic was PPP. You bankers in the room? Yeah, how's PPP been for you? It has been crazy, hasn't it? Well, the clients who were coming into your facilities, a lot of them were reaching out to me and saying, help, how do I get through the process? What are the deadlines? And things were just changing all of the time. So we worked through that. But then recently, within the last 6 months, there's been another shift. And now what business owners and business leaders are asking is, how in the world can I get people to work? For those of you who've been or that are in the room today, have any of you ever seen anything like we've seen with the employment climate right now? I've never seen or heard of anything like this, where it's almost like pulling teeth to get someone to come in for an interview. Like I've had employers, say, I can even get them to agree to the interview, but then they just don't show up. It's insane. So what I have been doing with my clients is working through some processes to help them attract talent, but also to retain the talent that they have. I know just the other day, Ashley, you sent me an article that's very timely, and it's talking about how in this post-COVID world that we live in, more and more people are questioning whether they want to work, where they want to work, how much they want to work, how they want to work, right? And so those of you who are leaders in the business community, you're dealing with that kind of psychological change that we've seen based on this post-COVID world. So as we talk through some of the ideas that I have seen work for some of the folks that I work with from across the country, I also want to just invite you to, if you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. Please participate. I love interactive. I don't want to be a talking head up here. But then I also owe you an apology. So as Sean gallantly said, I'm known as a communication specialist, but I'm not perfect. So I messed up on some communication. I meant to have handouts here for you with a lot of ideas that we won't even have time to get into today. So if you are interested in those handouts, if you will come up here on my little last minute makeshift sign up and just put down your email address, I will send you digital copies of those, okay? But what I have is I have 2 different sheets on how to attract people, and then I have a sample. Yes?
If you would like, you can send it to us and we can post on our website and Facebook page.
That would be fantastic. That would be, yes, absolutely. Okay, great. See, I love it when a plan comes together. Yes.
Why do you think that is happening? That people they don't want to.
I think there's a lot of reasons it's happening, and I think it varies. So it's a great question. And just so you all know too, like someone was asking at the table, like, what is my area of my focus, my expertise when I do business coaching? Well, really my expertise is people. So it translates across industries and it translates across different areas of businesses. So I work with people on employee issues. I do a lot of leadership training, marketing, customer care. Those are all areas that I focus on. But here's the thing, people are people are people. And as a certified personality trainer and having that foundational basis, what that does is it gives me kind of a leg up as to understanding the intrinsic or the soul deep reasons that people do what they do that sometimes even they don't understand themselves. So just so you understand that I come from that world. So I think there's a few things. I think one, coming into COVID, we all know that we live in a very harried and hurried world in the 21st century, right? It's just been go, 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 do, and sometimes you feel like you almost can't catch your breath, and we certainly don't get enough sleep at night, many of us. We just live in an over-caffeinated culture where we're just trying to get by. Well, when COVID came along, it kind of hit a pause button for folks. And suddenly, some of us were forced to take a breather. It was scary. There was a lot of unknowns that came along with that. But at the same time, for some, it felt like a little bit of a blessing too, because we had an excuse to be a little bit more normal. And I think a lot of people don't want to lose that. That's been a surprising side benefit for them. I think for some people, there was the scare of COVID that made them suddenly go, oh my gosh, life's short. I only have so much time to be able to do the things that I want to do or I need to do in my life, to be a contributing member of society, to make a difference in the world. Because I believe we're all wired to make a difference in the world. And so I think for many, they started questioning themselves and their choices and going, am I really making that difference? Do I have dreams that I buried somewhere along the way? A lot of people, the answer to that was yes. And so they decided that they wanted to go back and unearth those dreams, and they wanted to do something a little bit different than they had done before. I think for some, there's also the fear of the family tie. And I think for many people, prior to COVID, in that rush and that do, we sometimes lost sight a little bit of the importance of being intentional with our family connections. And I think when COVID came along, it kind of reconnected us and we plugged back into our families in ways we hadn't done for a while. And I think many people are afraid of losing that as well. At least in my experience, and I talk to hundreds of people on a regular basis, I think that's my best guess. So hopefully that helps. Yeah. And so then as business leaders, what do you do when you have all of that subliminal mindset and thought process going on and you need people to work? I know factually of a couple of businesses here in town right now that are struggling and saying, are we going to have to close our doors? And they've already shortened some hours because they literally cannot get enough people to come in and do the job. And when you're in this kind of a situation, we've done a flip-flop. There for a while, it was like the employer had the advantage, right? Not right now. I mean, I know people who are desperate to just get a warm body in place, to stand behind a counter or answer a phone, because it's that hard to get people to work. So I want to talk about just a few intrinsic drivers. Again, soul deep, that's what intrinsic means. It's soul deep. It runs through the course of who you are so much that even you don't consciously think about why you do what you do. But I want to talk about some of those drivers today, and then again, if you have questions or comments, you can ask those, and then there'll be even more on the handouts that'll be available to you. So one of the things that I know about business leaders is a lot of times, in our busy days, we will have good intentions of following through on some things that we don't follow through on. And one that's very important that most business leaders don't do is to actually sit down and make a list of the qualities that you want to have in an employee. Does anybody in here do that? Raise a hand. Do you sit down and you write down and say, this is the type of employee, these are the characteristics I want? Okay, it's very common. I don't see that happen very often. So I urge you to do that. There is something in the human condition that when we put something in black and white, it tells our subconscious to pay closer attention, and it tells us that we're more serious about it and we become more aware of opportunities. So just by doing that alone can help. Another thing is to think about the story of your business or your organization. What's intriguing about it? What's interesting? Come up with some unique things that you know that you can go to that would be a draw for someone to want to come work with you. Don't just be like, we're such and such business and, we offer this, this, and this. What's the background? Is there something in your history or something intriguing that person might be interested in knowing more about you if they could hear that? What are some unique qualities that you bring to the community? Here's the thing, everybody wants to be part of a winning team. Do you have testimonials? And when I say testimonials, yes, absolutely, customer or client testimonials, but do you have employee testimonials? I haven't yet had a client have that without us talking about that. Get testimonials from some of your best employees, the ones who demonstrate the kind of qualities you want to have, and have one or two of those on hand. And say, well, if you want to know what kind of company we are here, this is a testimonial from some people who work here for us. And so that gives you some extra credibility. But a huge thing that you need to do is make sure that you are doing something that you can show people is your organization making a difference. So are you involved in, I think about you're talking, is it Head Start you said that you guys do? Are you a company that invests in children? There are a lot of people who, they love children and animals, right? And so it would be important for them to know that I could work with an organization that supports something like that. And especially if we're involved in events and things of that nature. But how can you be involved in social causes? Many are drawn to work for an organization because that organization supports, saving animals and the environment and things like that. These days, that's what employees are looking for. They're not just looking for a paycheck. They want to know that whatever they are a part of is making a difference in the world. And they want to be part of a winning team. So if you can show that and show that credibility, that can be something that can set you apart from someone else. And many times, people will make the choice to be paid less money to work for an organization that aligns with their core values, their beliefs, their interests, their intrinsic drivers. So identify what some of those things are. Something else that a lot of business leaders miss is paint the picture for them. Like when you offer them the salary or the hourly wage, don't just show them that dollar amount, but literally have a document that shows every single perk with a dollar value to it that you can provide to them. Because see, employees or potential employees, they don't think about the employment taxes you pay on their behalf. They don't think about the vacation that has a dollar value to that. They don't think about the health insurance if you offer it. They don't think about the value of the discounts maybe that you offer. And if you can co-op with other businesses in the area to offer cross benefits like discounts and things like that, absolutely I would do that. Because those small little things added up together make that salary package look a lot bigger. And you have to paint the picture. You can't assume that they're just going to know that and figure that out, because that's not human nature. People just don't do it. And then conversely, one of the best things that you can do is to be the best employer possible with the people you have currently. Because I will tell you, your employees, your colleagues will either undermine you or they'll lift you up in the community by what they say. Okay? So make sure that you are attentive to the people that you have working with you right now. You don't want to be like that company. How many of you have seen the ads where it's if you're a new customer, you're going to get $100 cash, right? And then you've maybe been a customer for 5 years and you're like, well, what am I, chopped liver? Right? Don't do that to your employees. One of the things that I teach is, I think there's 7 superpowers of exceptional leadership. Okay, one of those is gratitude expressed, authentic gratitude. Let your people know that you see them. Let them know that you uniquely value them. Tell them why. Compliment them. Work to catch them doing more things right than doing things wrong. Because that's the kind of culture people want to work in. That's the kind of culture people are drawn to. That's the kind of culture that people will go out and go, hey, you need to come work for us. I love my job. I may not love my job every day, and I may not love everything about my job, but I sure love the way that I feel at my job. Another thing is paint the picture of how that individual might be able to help make a difference in the world. For instance, so I do a fair amount of training, with banking. Bankers often don't think about the difference that they make in people's lives every single day. And especially if it's a potential new employee, they probably are not thinking along those lines. So paint the picture for them. How do you make a difference for people? Tabby, I'm gonna call on you. How do you make a difference for people in your job?
Well, I think it's dependent upon the person in front of you because it's their expectation. It could be something as simple just as yesterday for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a customer at my desk and she had some disabilities and she needed help filling out some paperwork for so she could get her grant reduced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was very concerned about how exactly this was going to happen and she couldn't do it. She couldn't figure out how to do it. So I just, did it for her. And to her, that meant the world.
Right.
To someone else, it would be something bigger, but to her, that was pretty big. So it's something as simple as that.
How did you feel?
I felt great. I was, wonderful that I was able to help her because a smart person said to me, she said, you should treat everybody as you want your grandma to be treated. So that's what I do.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing, if you can help paint that picture for someone who is considering employment with you, that by itself could make all the difference in whether they want to sign up for your organization. Especially if you can say something like, here, where we work, like every customer that comes in, we think, what if that was my grandmother or my grandfather and I want to treat them that way? That can be a difference maker for them. So another thing that I encourage people to do is create something, I call it a one sheet. Do you guys know what a one sheet is? Anybody? Okay. So a one sheet is typically used, like in the world that I come from as a speaker and an author. So you'll create a one sheet for yourself that you give to people that gives them a very concise, short, brief amount of what you have to offer, right? Well, you could do that for your business, and I've actually done this with a business in Minnesota, one in Ohio, and one in Florida, and it's worked very, very well for them. So one sheet is simply where you would have a couple of visuals, and I am going to provide a sample in the items that I send for the chamber, but you could provide a sample of, pictures of your organization, maybe one or two of those, one or two testimonials. I would suggest one from an employee and one from a customer. And then that brief story that points out the unique things about your business and how that individual might be able to make a difference in the world through working at your business. And having that on the ready is something that you would be like, hey, have you ever thought about coming and working in this kind of industry? I'd love to have you consider it, and just hand it to them. Let them read it for themselves. Let them think on that. But a lot of times having a visual aid makes a lot of difference for people too. So with that, I've been covering a lot pretty quickly. So let me just ask you, what are some of the dilemmas that you're facing right now as you are trying to find people to work? Is there anything specific that we haven't talked about or I haven't covered?